been told to be realistic our whole life, basically. To plan, to prove, to seek permission for every move. But the cost of that? The slow erosion of our instincts. The version of yourself you have been abandoning to make other people comfortable. What if realistic is just someone else's fear dressed up in a practical language to make it easier to swallow? What if the logical path is actually the most dangerous one you can take? This video is all about what happens if you stop seeking external validation and start trusting the compass within you that you are born with. Let's be real, we are the most opinion-saturated generation in our human history. Every day we're bombarded by new trends, noises, social media. Yesterday's renegade dance feels like decades ago. And from then, every new song seems to be trending every week. If you look at our grandparents, they didn't have 4,000 people's opinions being shoved into their ear every day. They don't have anyone's opinion being shoved to them before breakfast. But that's normal to us. We ended up absorbing everyone's projections without realizing it. Other people's fears become our hesitation. Their normal becomes our normal. Their ceilings becomes our floor. This is why I also think we're getting boring each and every day. Just like that one kid who shows up on their TikTok randomly and said, 2026 is so boring. Damn right, boy, I agree with you. Everyone at work, dates, online, they're performative. Including me, I am also aware that I'm a victim of this. Because everyone nowadays seems to be performing a version of themselves, shaped by what they think the room wants. We don't even know who our real self even is. Who is she? Who is he? I don't know. All I can think is if a boy doesn't show up with a flower on his hand on our first date, he's a red flag. He doesn't do the bare minimum. The word realistic now is muzzled. I want you to think about every time someone used the word realistic to talk you out to something. Be realistic. You can't just quit your job. You're lucky enough to have a job now. The job market is plummeting because of AI. You should cherish that. Do you notice that the word realistic there is only applied to your dreams, not to their job? Realistic nowadays is a socially accepted of saying, your ambition makes me uncomfortable, so I'm going to reframe it as your problem. Yes, everything's wrong with you. But not only that, not only other people's noise is getting into you, it then becomes normal to your brain to think realistically. Because it doesn't like to be uncomfortable, we have a survival instinct to survive. So when someone says, your job is keeping you alive, your brain will gaslight you into thinking, you're right. Why? Because it's wired with familiarity, repetition, safety. This is also why you probably will stick to your job even if you dreaded waking up every single day. Because the brain treats familiarity as safe, which is protecting you in some way, but also killing you inside. The gut, however, operates in a different way. Your gut doesn't care about safety. It cares about alignment. And unfortunately, when those two are in conflict with each other, the brain usually wins. And so the byproduct of that, you consume everyone's noise, but also make it normal to yourself, to your brain, that it has become your new identity, to also be average. On top of that, if you're the only person who thinks differently, who sees a different path, of course it's gonna feel isolating, which goes hand in hand with being safe. Your brain wants you to be safe. It doesn't want you to be lonely. So at this point, yes, I'm calling all of you out, including myself, but I don't want you to feel hopeless, because you can simply reframe all of this, and I'm gonna walk you through with it one by one, starting with this first example of you feeling isolated. I want you to imagine someone telling you to press that button 50 times in order for you to get a $50 gift card. You're gonna be like, okay, 50 times? Easy, I'm gonna do that right now. People might be staring at you. People might think, what is this girl doing? Just hitting button endlessly without having any meaning, right? In their perspective, you're the crazy one. But do you care about their opinion at that point? No, not really. Why? Because you know that you will get a $50 gift card. You know that there's gonna be an outcome, and you're gonna get it for sure. And that also what happens in our day-to-day life. People reject your vision simply because they couldn't see it. They can't verify what you're doing is getting you to where you want to be. Of course, as a human being, we have been programmed to distrust anything that we can verify yet. So when you implement this into your goals, your dreams, if you yourself know that what you're doing right now will get you to where you want to be, whether that be a certain physical outcome or just shifting something within yourself, emotionally, mentally, there's no need for you to worry about other things because you're working with information that others doesn't have access yet. They don't know who you are deeply. Nobody has ever seen you as the real you. Everyone sees you as how they think you are, their perception towards you. So nobody's judgment of your life has ever been objective. Every opinion you have received has been filtered through that person's fears, their losses, their regrets, their version of what's possible. So their verdict, that's not a verdict of who you are. But an important note to this is not a license to dismiss everyone. There's a difference between receiving criticism in a place of security versus being controlled by it. Me saying all of this is not me promoting you to start canceling everybody and telling them that they're wrong, that you should get rid of them from your life. No. If you're doing that, you are similar with the influencers that got cancelled simply because they couldn't take criticism. You do not need to bring others down, because that means that you're being controlled by it. That means you're agreeing with them to some degree, to the point where you have to defend yourself because you think to a certain point what they're saying is right. What you can do is you can just hear someone else's fear without taking it as an instruction. Just respond as a bigger person and don't treat other people's projection as a reason to treat them badly. A reminder that we are social beings. We evolved to live in community, and that's why I said we are all guilty of being normal. But I didn't say that that's the wrong thing. It is a different story when you actually take other people's projection of fear as your own set of belief. But if you can only listen to that, again, not taking it as an instruction, that's how we evolve in a community. Now that you're aware of all of that, let me ask you this one question. When is the last time you did something purely because it felt right, not because it was justified or approved or strategically timed? How did it feel? Even if it ended up failing, even if it's messy, did you feel a sense of relief at some point? Well, in my own case, yes. What happens is I close my business, which is doing pretty good. And of course, from the outside, people might see me as being irrational, that I'm self-sabotaging myself, that what I was doing is a mistake overall. But do I make that decision out of fear? Do I make that decision out of doubt, worry, anxiety, that the business is not gonna run well? No, I did that because it doesn't feel aligned with who I am now. That phase of my life has moved on, and I'm ready to restart my life and pursue the things that I am excited about now. And because of that, I felt free because I let myself to grow into the version that she's meant to be. I don't restrict herself simply because others told me to not do it, because they don't understand what I'm dealing with internally. They don't understand that I felt in alignment. They don't understand that closing this business is actually bringing me more opportunity than if I were to just restrict myself at that point. The mistake everyone saw was a reset that I needed. I stayed true to myself, and in my own perspective, I see that as a win. Nothing is ever a loss in your life. I truly believe that. But again, it really depends on your perspective on life. If you see life as regrets, losses, then of course you might see what I'm doing right now as a loss, that I'm gonna regret it someday. And again, the difference with you hitting the buttons 50 times and knowing that you're gonna get that, and what we're doing now in real life to survive, is that we don't know if this is the right blueprint or not. We don't know if we're guaranteed to get what we want, but we have the option to believe so. That is the difference. Others might not, but you know what you need to do. You have that within you. Even if you don't know the blueprint yet, you can figure it out along the way. You have the right to make the decision yourself. When you see businesses that also succeeds and you think they're just lucky, the lucky that you see is probably just a byproduct of them trusting a signal that others couldn't see yet. Not just with hard data, but with their intuition. It's like how Uber became a thing when no one even saw that as an opportunity. Netflix allowing online streams and defying what everyone thinks is normal, which is DVDs. If you see it in that perspective, the illogical things, the irrational things, is most probably always going to be the right path. Again, if you truly believe so.
What the dog doing?
And of course, I want to acknowledge that what I'm saying right now is not as easy as it seems. Why? Because we have been conditioned our whole life to think this way, to live on external terms, to outsource our decision into what feels the safest, what feels easiest, less friction as possible, even if that means outsourcing your power of thinking to artificial intelligence, to people on the internet who doesn't even know you. And unlearning all of that is not an overnight decision. It is a practice. But it's exactly like how fishes know how to swim without anyone telling them. We are also like that. We are meant to live without anyone deciding for us what we should do. Yes, at some point listening to others' advice is gonna help you advance in life. It's gonna help you to grow as a better person. But that also does not mean that you should shut down the internal voice that you have, your inner intuition. The pattern that we're seeing now is that we consume too much to the point where we don't even know how listening to our intuition even feels like. We even struggle to fill up a one blank page of a journal. That's how bad it is. I'm gonna give you a couple of tips for you to start leaning into your intuition more, now that you know that not everyone's opinion you should take. You should also exercise to listen to your own decisions, make your own judgment, and reflect the beliefs that you currently held. Maybe you want to let go of some beliefs. Firstly, the theme of this video is feeling safe, right? Our brain wants to feel safe. And so if you're left with two decisions, one that is safe and logical, but also probably is not aligned with you, and the other one is aligned, but requires risk, of course you're going to take the logical one. Now, what you need to do is turning the thing that aligns with you, but decreasing the risk and making it safe enough for your brain to see that you can trust in that, you can pursue that. So it's like turning the impossible into possible while doing the things that you enjoy that brings you alignment. This might be hard for you to comprehend. So let me tell you an example of mine again. For all this time, I have a goal, which is to build my dream brand. But because of the external noise of people saying that you need to be really good at one thing if you want to build a really great business, you see successful people out there, they hone their skill for 10 years, for 15 years, for most of their life, and that's why they're able to get that success. And so that's what I believe. I believe that in order for me to see success, I have to be only good at one thing. But me personally, I am a multi-dimensional person. I have a lot of passions. And ever since I was a kid, I have talents here and there. I also have the thought of like, okay, what am I gonna do for the rest of my life? Because I don't only want to do one thing. But that thought slowly started to fade away, just like how our inner child started to fade away, because all of the logical things that are being fed into our mind. And so what I started doing is to eliminate the risk, I simply find another thing for me to do alongside building that business. Why? Because I know that building the business that will become really big, worldwide known, that requires time. It doesn't happen overnight. Success can happen overnight, but after you've nurtured it enough at some point. It's like, yes, you can manifest a really big thing at one time. It is very possible. But if you see the people who've done that, they've been manifesting small things at baby steps, like little by little. They don't just manifest that big thing, but they train their brain to be able to see the evidence that they can manifest to the point where they can just do this big thing. Same here. I know that the brand that I'm gonna build will take time, and so I have this anxiety about what if it's not gonna work out because I don't have enough financial to back it up, also back my own personal life right now. What if the content doesn't hit people yet? All of those things, right? And that can also be my part of limiting beliefs, and I'm working towards fixing that and reframing that belief. But also what I did to help me rewire that belief even faster is by doing something that I know for a fact will eliminate all of those anxiety in a faster speed. And that requires me to let go of the belief that I only have to do one thing at a time. I now know that a career portfolio exists. And again, this is why listening to other people's opinion is fine as long as they're not projecting your fears and you're not listening to it. This is where the second point comes, you enjoy doing it. So I started doing an ikigai exercise where you write down the things that you love doing, the things that the world needs right now, the things that actually will help people, and your skills. You combine everything together. This is where I just write everything down, every thought that I have in my head onto a journal, because sometimes all of the junks that you have heard from other people might still be at the back of your mind. So you just need to let that out, for all of it. Think of it as like spring cleaning. You put all of the thoughts that you have on top of your head onto a paper and you externalize everything. You see the patterns. Now I know, okay, I actually really like dissecting brands' marketing, their campaigns, their creative direction, and I just realized all of that after I wrote everything down in a paper. So you probably might have a potential that you didn't realize yet, simply because again, you're not really connected with inner self. You've shut that voice down long ago. Guys, excuse the lighting. It will come back up in a few seconds. But the byproduct of that, of doing the things that I enjoy doing every single day, knowing that also the things that I enjoy will not only decrease my anxiety, my fear, my worry of the future, but also brings me alignment in the present moment, which is where you're currently living. You tend to live in the future, you tend to live in the past when you're listening to other people's judgment, because you're thinking about the what ifs, you're thinking about the what could happen, the future scenarios. You're not living in the present moment. That determines all of that. Now that I've done all of this for the first time ever, I felt at ease. I felt peace. The noise inside of my head that usually almost exploded is now almost entirely gone. Of course, it's not gonna be completely gone, but at least now I have clarity and confidence that what I'm doing will get me there. Not only that, journaling, all of that, and figuring out what brings you joy and high energy in the present moment, you can also let all of that marinate for at least 24 hours before you consume any more external input. If you want to make sure that what you're writing is based off your true self, you need to let that sink in and then assess again what happens when the noise actually settles in. Sometimes again, clarity can really happen at the moment where you least expected it and when you felt most at ease. So when you're writing things down at first, yes, you're gonna feel ease, but probably you're not really used to it. So if you let it marinate, maybe you can assess it back and gain some more clarity. To end this off, let me compare the difference between social anxiety and intuition, because sometimes they could kind of feel the same and you can get tricked by thinking the latter. So firstly, social anxiety feels reactive. It feels loud, it triggers when you hear other people's responses, and that's why sometimes you can be really reactive when someone gives their opinion to you about something, even if they meant good things for you. The very common thing that I can think about is our parents, like how our parents used to yell at us for doing a thing that we think is normal or we think is fine. Now intuition, on the other hand, it is quieter and it usually doesn't change depending on who says did it. And that's why, again, you need to let it marinate and ask yourself, is it attached to what someone else think? Is it attached to fear? Or am I okay with it regardless? Because if it's intuition, no matter how long you let it sit, you're probably okay with it. Even if you start questioning it, your answer will probably go back to that one thing. And yeah, that's all I have for this video. Unfortunately, my lamp hasn't turned on yet. I'm sorry. If you would like to become a beta tester of the brand that I'm talking about, the brand that I want to build, you can check the link in the description below, fill in a couple of questions. If you enter your email, I will send you the product, which is basically a digital product for those who want to bridge the gap between their inner self and outer self. So what they believe in, their identity, who they want to become, versus also the actionable things that you want to do on your daily basis. Because we live in a physical reality, we need to take physical actions, but those needs to work hand in hand. Sometimes you tend to lean into the physical thing, but if you do all of that, again, based off logic and not based off what your intuition says, you might actually be going into the direction that you don't want to go. And that's why I created this product. And yeah, other than that, I will see you in my next video.